My name is Simon Mundie and this is the Life Lessons podcast. This week's conversation is with the Arsenal and England football legend Tony Adams. Tony played for Arsenal for over 20 years, uniquely captaining a title-winning team in 3 different decades. He also won 66 caps for England, but despite all his successes on the pitch, Tony's life away from football spiralled out of control due to his alcoholism, leading to a lost decade and a spell in prison. In 1996, Tony sought treatment for his addiction, and he says he's been in recovery ever since. In the year 2000, Tony founded the Sporting Chance Clinic that provides treatment for sportsmen and women suffering from drink, drug and gambling addictions. In this episode, Tony talks all about addiction, including the key factors that can lead to someone developing an addiction. He explains what you can get addicted to and why avoiding thoughts and feelings is a recipe for disaster. A pleasure to have you here, it really is.
Last time I was in this kind of environment, I was in floods of tears. I just lost my mother and did Desert Island Discs.
Yes,
and,
I've listened.
And I was just in floods and floods of tears. I just lost her a couple of years to bone cancer, and she didn't deserve that.
No.
And the Sweet Caroline, the music came on, it was very emotive. And hopefully, let's see. Who knows? I've been a bit emotional lately.
Feel free. This is a safe space in here,
good.
Tony. I promise you that. So, how are you?
That's difficult at times. Today I'm having a great day, to be honest. I've been to a lot of meetings recently and working my programme, and life's quite wonderful. I'm very grateful at the moment. Yeah. A lot of people in a lot of pain out there, and I'm just so privileged to have fantastic relationships with all my family, and I'm just living the dream, really. It's just I'm at peace. I've got plenty of serenity in my life, and I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and I never thought that I would actually say that, but I am today, and I'm good enough for me, which is obviously I suffered as a kid through self-esteem and self-loathing, and to actually be in a place where I am today, coming up 23 years without a drink, to be actually calm and peaceful and kind of, it don't matter what you think of me, it's about what I think of myself, and I have to tell myself that quite often. So it's great to be here. I can do, my world is open, I'm free, I can do whatever I want. I can come here and chat to you, I can do anything, and I can say no as well. So it's great to be here.
I mean, there's a lesson even in that, isn't there? No matter how low you go, you can always get back on top, as you are.
Yeah, I don't know. My journey, it's my story. I drank for 12 years, 11 and a half. Those I didn't want to, I never liked the taste. I loved the effect, It suppressed all my thoughts and feelings, and I could not do that. I was a child emotionally, and the booze just suppressed it all. And it took me to a very dark place, and I'm spending a lot of time in pubs and clubs. So you marry a barmaid, and like attracts like, and she was very sick as well as I was, and it was all a bit volatile and it's a bit sad, and I was personally completely trapped, and I didn't know how to get out, and my solution was to booze every time, which was making it worse. And it was going round and round and round to, thank God, I was 29 years of age, and I broke down and I started to cry, the first time in my life, and it was a moment of clarity, spiritual moment, call it what you want. It was just something shifted. I asked something inside of me, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And found my way out, through the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and one-to-one therapy. I still see the same therapist I saw 23 years ago. And I've learned a little bit about myself, a bit of education around addiction and around the illness, and leaves me with my one-to-one therapy looks at all the other stuff, my depression, the anxieties, all the fears that's in everybody's life happens, doesn't it? Both my parents died of cancer, and it was really painful, but I didn't pick up a drink, and I shared it in a safe space, like I'm doing today. It's a safe space, yeah.
Listen, I promise you have my word, Tony. All right. Now you've basically told your whole story virtually there, but we're gonna rewind just a little bit. A lot of people who listen to Don't Tell Me the Score aren't necessarily football fans. Rather than talk about the number of England appearances or winning titles over 3 decades, I would just think it's summed up by the fact that you've got a statue outside Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm very honoured that they put that statue up, and very proud. I worked hard. I had a set of skills, and it was a fantastic club, and they liked what I did, and I loved what they did, and football was my first drug of choice. I suppressed all the same as I did with alcohol. Suppressed all my thoughts and feelings in football. I was free as a bird. It's what I did. I ran away to the football pitch. It was only one place in my life at that time I felt comfortable. And I was pretty good. Like I say, I got given a set of tools. I could head the ball. I can kick a few people, and the crowd kind of liked that, so I kicked a few more, and they liked that even more. And 22 years. There's pivotal moments in that. 13 trophies, 10. Every decade. I don't think they'll beat that one. There's a few weird kind of quiz questions, and the captain over the three decades, winning the league title. I don't think we're ever going. You have to be very young to be a captain, and then you have to be a team that's winning titles.
How old were you when you became captain?
20, 20. First time. So and I lifted the league trophy at 21 and straddled the decades, 89 and 2002. So I got lucky in that respect, but to win it over 3 decades, I don't think that. Ryan Giggs has done it as a player, but not as captain. I don't think that'll get beat. I've played at Wembley more than another person, the old Wembley, which I'm proud of. Peter Shilton was 58, I think I got 59. And one that I'm not, I don't really care about. There's international goals. I scored in 1988 and actually didn't play for England in the World Cup after that 18 months. It was not maybe something to do with the amount of booze that I was drinking off of the pitch at the time. But I scored in 88 and I scored again in 2000. It's 12 years, I think 3 months and about 16 days, I think. Record in between international goals. So.
That's a good pub one. That is a good
one. Pub one. You're very worried. Watch it.
Sorry.
It's all right, mate.
It's safe.
He's got no power over me today. I can go where I want.
Yeah. So you talk about football being your first drug of choice. So let's just rewind again. You had this wonderful career and a wonderful gift, but it was a drug of choice because you were so full of fear as a child. And you've talked about part of that being, for example, an academic thing, being scared of speaking publicly in classrooms. But as well, it sounded like your mum in particular kind of like allowed you to.
Well, they didn't understand. I didn't understand, really. We weren't a family that sat around the table and talked about our thoughts and feelings. It wasn't done. So, when I remember a reading lesson, and the book's going around the class, and I'm sitting there, I know now, having a panic attack. I didn't know at the time. At the time, it was just, help. And the book's coming round, and of course, I'm in such a state, when I read it, I say I got it all wrong, and I said wheelie instead of really, and everyone laughed. They're laughing at me, and that kind of crippled me inside, But I didn't go home that day and say, I've had a panic attack in school. I didn't do this reading list. I didn't do that. One, I didn't do it, and maybe they didn't understand either. They come from a family above them that was very, I suppose, sick. As well, my grandfather was a drunk like me, and I think they passed it on. Of course, So we only learn by that, and so yeah. What did you say? Being
full of fear, and actually you touched on something interesting there about patterns. And you talk about your grandfather, who I know was quite an abusive man, and then your mother and father, and you've talked about, your mum saying that, the reason she was with your dad was because he had a job and he didn't hit her, which, is very much a sort of a sign of the times. And thoughts and feelings weren't sort of spoken about. No,
you kind of bottled them up, didn't you? Tough men, you do get up, man up, get on with it, go and hit him or go, you don't. I didn't understand. I couldn't identify. I couldn't label any feeling, through my teens and into my 20s. I didn't know if it had come along and hit me in the face. I couldn't verbalise it. Yeah. I just acted. Yeah. Just acted out with all this stuff. So if I was resentful to it, I pretty much told them, or I kind of talked about it behind their back, And then the behaviour. I did a lot of bad stuff when I was drunk, when I was sick. Funny enough, since I've been well, I've not done no bad stuff. But at that point, because you're doing bad stuff, it makes you feel, this is not me. I feel so. The shame comes up, the guilt comes up. It goes round in circle, and I just kept on running down to the pub to cure that. And it's not a good for me. It's not a good idea. As the bottling up of the thoughts and feelings wasn't a good idea. Even without the booze. Because I know that the solution's within me. That's the problem. It's nothing to do with the alcohol.
Of course.
You
didn't like booze, did you?
Exactly. So I loved the effect. So that was the reason I was doing it, because I didn't like the thoughts and feelings. I didn't like me.
Yeah.
And that's I've just over these last 2 decades, I've kind of got to know me, and by getting to know me, I think you can understand a little bit about your parents. And I said amends, and they've both passed away now, but when they were alive, I've got a great example actually. My dad, and you can see the kind of mentality, because on his deathbed, I remember going in there, and still it was like, if I'd hugged him, we never hugged. It was like a shake. Goodbye, Mr. Adams, shake of the hand, type of stuff. But and I think for me to have gone in there and just hugged him would have been maybe a bit cruel.
Really?
It might have been a bit cruel for him, because he wasn't that.
He couldn't deal with it.
I don't think he could have. Well, he might have been. He didn't have no choice. He was morphined up emotionally. To have his son go, "Oh, get off of it! Don't be ridiculous! Give me a hug, bloody hell!" You know what I mean? We don't do that, son. Jesus.
And it gets easier though, generation to generation. I mean, for example, like when I hug my dad, right, his head's right over here. It's quite funny.
It's great.
But you talk about you shaking your dad's hand on his deathbed, but also you've talked about holding your son's hand when he was feeling vulnerable at a soccer camp. So you really sort of see how, generation to generation, it does soften, doesn't it?
It does. I'm not sure it would have done if I continued to drink alcohol. Right. I don't think
so
I would have.
So you needed to recover to be able to get to that
you
point.
seem like a emotionally and mentally quite put together human being for me. I don't know, but just my opinion. But there's not a lot of people that are that conscious, and I don't think a lot of people are in touch with their feelings, or I don't know if that's the right phrase. They come up and attack me rather than get in touch with them. So it does. I feel like I've put a stop to the next generation, for sure. I feel like the Addams family have gone, right, that's it. With my, we do talk to people. We do talk. And it really helped me get in a wife that was emotionally and mentally together as well. She says we can only deal with one nutter in the family. It's all we can deal with. So it's great that she is a rock emotionally and mentally, and it's what attracted me to her. I think, spiritually as well. I think it was just one of those moments, like back in the day when I hit rock bottom, it was one of those moments where you go, wow,
the universe aligned.
This is something else. This is not down to me. And she was definitely one of those. And all my 5 kids and 1 stepdaughter and 2 grandchildren now, that, we I'm here, I'm present, I'm conscious. I'm talking about stuff, and they seem to be all doing all right.
Yeah.
They don't. So at times I project my stuff, my old stuff, onto them, and get scared for them. Think that they're going to be like me, and they're going to be in pain for all their lives, and they're going to all that stuff that And I dealt with when I got clean and sober. Because I run everything. They talk about fear, face everything and recover. And I used to F everything and run. That's what I used to do. But now I face everything and recover. So
I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good.
I'd run from everything as a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't do my exams. I couldn't do life. I couldn't do girlfriends. I couldn't do nothing. I run to the football pitch, and then I run to the pub.
Yeah,
it was all I did. And now, I hit bottom in a nutshell, and kind of went right. Actually, let's face everything. Let's start opening my mouth. First things first, And it took me a long time to open my mouth. Now I can't shut up, which is good for a podcast, I suppose.
Yeah. You talk about running away from stuff, and you ran away from the classroom and girls and so on and so forth. And obviously, booze is a way to run away from thoughts and feelings when you reflect on it. But football did exactly the same thing. It's a healthy addiction.
To be fair, the athleticism that's needed for high-level sport it's not balanced. It's not a balanced
That's interesting.
job. It's very difficult to that level of athleticism to keep going. It has to have some effect. So if a lot of them now, I ain't spoken about the Sporting Chance now, but we've helped 900, and a lot of them have got one-to-one therapists now. They're a safe place where they share, and we've got a whole department. We've got over 200 now counsellors across the country where people are actively speaking and helping them emotionally and mentally to be able to physically go onto the pitch and do their stuff. And the support network now is better than ever. When I sobered up in 96, mate, we weren't talking about this stuff. I was the weirdo on the block, you know what I mean? Right. Oh, Jesus, Adams is talking about, he's away with the fairies. He's gone, he's out to lunch, as we used to say. But more and more often now, it's kind of accepted, and that started really with education. We did education first thing, the education department with the Sporting Chance, and went into Man United with Sir Alex. He let me in, and I spoke to the whole lot of the players at that point and sowed seeds. And you talked about stopping the next generation, and I think we've done that. And the mentors that I had was gamblers and drinkers, and we've put a stop to that, and we've gone into the clubs and actively said, look, this is available. You have education first. You've got one-to-one therapy. If the wheels completely come off, we've got a clinic down the road that can sort you out, and we've got a 24-hour helpline as well. So the support network is there for them now, emotionally and mentally, to be able for them guys to perform, and they don't have to go to the place where I went. Yeah.
So football was an addiction for you. Drink was an addiction for you. You hit that moment. You had a 6-week bender after the 96 Euros. And then you had that sort of moment where you've talked about it almost in sort of spiritual terms. You just knew that it was kind of over. Similar to when you met your wife. And something that struck me about when you met your wife that you've spoken about is when you met her family. And you were so overcome with how loving and open and everything they were. And that felt, it sounded to me when I've heard you talk about this, that it felt quite different. Yeah, the contrast with your own family was quite stark.
Yeah, I think life was very different. I was crying at the drop of the hat, I was watching films on TV all of a sudden, and from a man that never cried until he was 29, I get completely broken. And the greatest thing about recovery is you get your thoughts and feelings back. And the worst thing about recovery is you get your thoughts and feelings back. So my experience with my wife's family was, wow, and it took me I had 6 years playing football, which I'm eternally grateful for. And a lot of people don't go to their bottom and still have a career, So I was lucky enough that I got off at that level and was able to go back and win 2 doubles and play free as a bird, emotionally, mentally, physically, exploded every weekend for the fantastic Arsenal Football Club and won loads of trophies. It's just great, I felt alive, and I used to go to meetings after matches because emotions, win or lose, those were the times that I used to go and get on it. And it was great. Like I say, very grateful. But I set the charity up in 2000 while I was still playing, and I felt a responsibility really to show other people the way. I wrote Addicted. Which led to Sporting Chance. Yeah, 400,000 copies that sold, and I think it was meant to be again another.
Yeah. What was there a moment when you thought, I'm going to write this book?
Yeah.
Can you remember it? Can you pinpoint it?
I was going through Alcoholics Anonymous. Going to regular meetings, and part of the 12-step program is step 4. It's searching and a moral
moral inventory.
Oh, well, there you go. You know it more than me. You've done some work and done some study, haven't you? And I did one privately, and in step 5, you give it to someone else, someone that you trust, and let it go. All the stuff, all the bad stuff that you did wasn't you, it's because you were sick, and I wrote it all up and went, and it's prison intensive care, and it's supposed to be cathartic.
Is it called The Shift? Isn't it?
Well, you're supposed to let it go.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the effect of that. And
Right.
one of the reasons I felt I didn't feel the effect of it is because a lot of my Step 4 stuff was done in public.
Right.
And I felt like I had to maybe make an amends or clean up. You're only sick as your secrets. I thought it still had some stuff out there that, I looked at, well, it's not going anymore, but I was on the front pages of the News of the World every other week for doing this and doing that. And I just felt I needed to go back into the public domain and go, there you go. No skeletons anymore. I kind of knew it was kind of ready for, and then the Sun said, we serialise it in the Sun and you can get £250,000 when the days when you'd get a lot of money for serialisation. So after tax, 167, something like rings a bell, I gave to the Sporting Chance, and I set up my therapist there and made him available for other sports people, and Sporting Chance was born.
What are you more proud of, your sporting career or Sporting Chance?
I've got to say both. I'm sorry. I'm not going to, I think both of them are God-given, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be blessed in both departments. For some reason, football's given me everything, even the Sporting Chance, there's nothing like, I would have been dead, and so I've got to put the charity first, because at 29, I'm out the game, I'm gone. I was in that place, we call it the jumping off point, where I didn't know how to kill myself, but I didn't know how to live. I didn't want to live, but I didn't know how to kill myself, and I'm just stuck there going, bewildered, confused, terror, all there, jumping off point, and I didn't think that I was going to make 30. So actually sitting here with you, 52, a few years down the road.
Looking good, by the way.
Thanks, pal.
52.
Yeah, doing all right.
Yeah, you do.
Sun's out, guns out.
Yeah, that's it. You look good, I have to say.
I've got to say Sporting Chance, because it saved my life,
Yeah.
in effect, from the recovery. And it reminds me, you see, because people say, do you still go? Do you still go, mate? Yeah, of course I do, because people were in there when I turned up. And if I don't go back, who's going to pass the message on? Okay. You know what I mean? See, I've got a responsibility to keep going back, and it reminds me what it was like, because I am so far away from that point at the moment. It's like, did that happen?
I mean, it's been a hell of a journey. Scared child, right? Football as an escape. A mega successful career alongside a mega productive boozing career, if you want to put it that. You hit that falling off point, and then your life completely changed, and then set up Sporting Chance, and you not only have you saved yourself, but you've really saved a lot of people on the way. So that pain surely has been worth it, because you might not have enjoyed it at the time.
Absolutely, every single minute of that pain's got me to where I am today. So I wouldn't swap it for the world.
And it's important to remember that, isn't it? Like pain, we want to escape pain, but actually it may end up being one of your greatest blessings.
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
This too shall pass. And if you can sit with it, hallelujah. It's just, it's so freeing. That irritable, bored, lonely, depressive kind of mentality that I used to kind of run away from or try to change it, actually it's got no power over me today.
Yeah.
That's quite powerful.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's not there. It just doesn't control you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
In a nutshell.
So you know a lot about addiction, Tony. You've suffered with it. You've overcome it, quote unquote. You've lived with it. You've helped other people deal with it. So first question I have for you, for someone who doesn't get addiction, what does it mean to you? Is it just a way to escape thoughts and feelings?
I think it's very complicated. If you want to talk to the doctors, and this is the doctors, not me, they think it's genetic, and 39% of it, and it's not one genes, they all collide. Then for me, it's a bit of nature and nurture, postcode, peers. Would you go back? Do you go back to an estate? Are your peers all taking drugs? Have you had trauma as a kid? Psychological, biological, sociological, environment, genetics. Put it in a blender and mix it all up there's your addict.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of things that we can get addicted to. I think there's some, if I go back to my program again, it's people, places, things, situations. And when I'm in my head, they can all become obsessive. So I think there's a mental illness there. Mm-hmm. I think, and we need to put it and categorise it as a mental illness. Then we might be able to get funding in different places. It's emotional. Yeah. The feelings, the uncomfortable feelings that come up that we don't like.
Fear, anxiety.
Exactly. And for me, that starts there and goes to the head. Yeah. Because we come out the womb with feelings. We don't come out intellectualising about feelings. Yeah. We're animals, and
everyone's sensitive at their core, aren't they? You don't see a baby who's
when you get fear, you go to your head. For me,
disappear up into thinking. On that score, then, do you think you can get almost addicted to thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. We live in our heads. Most people live in their heads nowadays, and I don't know about your head, but I don't want to live in mine. I come up with some really strange thoughts. But I also think there's I said mentally and emotionally, but I also think there's a physical side of this illness as well, where we don't look after ourselves enough, and that kind of it plays the other side. So, and then if the last core of it, if you want to analyse it, which is not necessary for me today, hallelujah, but I think there's a spiritual, AA, for instance, a 12-step program is a spiritual solution to a mental and emotional problem. That's what I understand it to be.
People who go to AA, NA, all the 12-step meetings, people aren't religious or spiritual, but from what I know of it, people leave with a spiritual side, with an appreciation of
my experience
a spiritual element of life.
Of the addict, they've got huge egos and low self-esteem. Yeah, that's been my and half of the 12-step program is a right sizing, like making you right sized in the program, and it's an ego deflating 12-step program. And what we try to do is that you're no better, no worse than any other human being. Yeah. And I think the higher power, spirituality, call it what you want, group of drunks, some people use GOD, group of drunks in the room. What's important, I think, that it's not you. The ego needs to be punctured. It needs to be punctured. And you have to get something, nature, and everybody's higher powers differently. Yeah. It's unique to that person, but it's not you, and it's bigger than you. It's more powerful than you, and it's a right sizing process. So you stay humble. Yeah. Bill Wilson, who set it up with, co-founder, said, live usefully, walk humbly under the grace of God, and that's what my true ambition is today to do.
So it's surrendering to something, bigger than yourself. That's a definition of spirituality, I think, that a lot of people can live with. And you mentioned there kind of, it's not you. The ego, if you've talked on the ego there, big egos, low self-esteem. I've heard the ego described as a man-made or a mental-made sense of self, and it does seem to go with like, big egos with self-esteem. What is the ego to you?
My ego, thinks that I should be England manager, and it's like I'm fantastic. I'm brilliant.
It's the I am.
I am. Yeah. It's me. It's It's I'm this. I'm that. I'm everything. Yeah. The journey to the self is difficult because I think every human being's got a ego. Yeah. To degrees. Yeah. I think we all like to be liked. What is different for me today is that I try to get self-esteem, to get self-respect, you have to do respectful stuff. You have to do esteemable stuff. So that's what I tend to try to do today. Yeah. And if I'm living on the self, it's like I'm going to get the next job for billions of pounds because that's what will fix me. That's what I meant. And all of a sudden it's, free will run riot. Ego's gone out of control. I'm why am I not running BBC? My self-esteem says that I can do it. If I think I can put my name to it, I can do this job, and I'm pretty good at it, and I give everything, and it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So the self-esteem kind of goes up, and we get. There's another lovely thing that builds self-esteem is to do something for someone else without anybody getting to know. And it's really feeds the soul, the more of those things you do. I haven't done it for a while, but I draw pictures and stuff. When I was in Chelmsford Prison, I used to draw cartoon characters for the kids and stuff. But I sit there and it's good for me. It's really good for me. And I'm not the best drawer in the world. I'm not the worst, but I enjoy it and it's great and it's just for me.
Yeah.
And I think those things people don't do in their life. They're so busy running here, running there, doing this, doing that, and they forget about them, the soul and the true person that they are, in those moments we need it, Smell the roses, pal.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping off point, I just want to touch on this. You talked about this kind of this moment of realising that you had, where you realised, your life was unmanageable, basically, and that, the booze had defeated you, and, it was kind of do or die. How does someone get to that point, really? And I'm not talking necessarily about you, because I'm interested, because you're lucky to get to that point, in a way, aren't you?
Lucky
and a lot of people don't.
Got out the other side.
Yeah.
I crossed the line and couldn't get back.
Yeah.
Like I say, for 12 years I drank. 11 and a half of those I didn't want to stop. No point. The intensive care, the weeing myself, the blackouts, I go over it, Chelmsford Prison. I didn't want to stop. I wanted the consequences to stop. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to give up alcohol. It wasn't on the equation. And then a series of events happened that pushed me over the line, and I realised that I couldn't get back. And that is the most terrifying place that anybody's ever been, and that's what we've all got, the same connection with the other people in Alcoholics Anonymous, that they've all been to the same place. We've all been to that bottom, and got out, and that's why we're all dancing on the ceilings, because we're great.
The only way.
And I have to be careful, because this becomes ego. All of a sudden, I'm sharing this stuff. But I took 6 weeks into my recovery the decision to go public with this, because I thought that I needed to. I knew this was for life, a day at a time, and I thought it would do a hell of a lot of people good to show how I changed.
You talk very interestingly about 3 ways that people deny addiction when they're in the throes of it, when they haven't reached the jumping off point. Denial, minimisation, justification. Right. So let's just have a little bit of a chat about.
I don't think I've said that today. You must have researched that.
Tony, listen. You're Tony Adams. I'm not going to listen.
Denial is.
There's my book of notes.
Denial's not. I've not got a problem.
Yeah.
Justification for me was, you'd drink if you had a life like mine. My wife, she's addicted to cocaine. Oh my God, you go and drink. Minimisation. I don't drink as much as him. He's at the pub every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're talking about effect then, because it affected me differently with that guy. But I not as bad as him. So minimisation. You're talking now, leading you on to your question before last, is regarding the people that haven't got to the bottom.
Yeah.
And there's more and more people now that are actually going, I can recognise the actual car crash down the road there, and we talk about a lift going down to the bottom. You can get off at any floor you want to.
Okay.
I went into therapy first. I didn't go to a treatment centre. I don't think to be honest with you, because I put my first wife into treatment, it was failure I'd rather have killed myself than gone into treatment. Such was my head where
That's
it was.
Where you were.
You know what I mean? It's like a defeat. I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm actually drinking myself to death, but it's not that bad to go to treatment. It's absolutely bonkers, because it's the one place that I needed. But she needs it because she's worse than me, and it propped me up. At least I'm not as bad as you.
So you've touched on something earlier about, I think you said something along the lines of, I can only help myself. What about those of us who know someone who is clearly an addict, but is stuck in the throes of denial, minimisation or justification.
Yeah. Be very careful how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't buy into the chaos. You have to try and detach with love. And what my mother-in-law did to me, she gave me a number of the therapists and said, there you go, give him a call, and walked away.
Did she demand? Or she just
slipped it in. She actually was very clever, actually, because she said, to understand what your wife's going through, because then it's not about me then. Because if it was about me, then I probably wouldn't have gone. But I'm going to this therapist to find out what my wife's going through in treatment. Yeah. So that's fine with me. And then I got there and I said, I know how to get drunk and I know how to play football, but I don't know who I am. And 23 years later, I'm still speaking to the same guy.
So tread carefully, though. If you know they have to reach a point, do they that you can't really do anything for them? Really?
They have to make the call. You can call the. If you're a sports person, you can call. Emily's there at the moment. She's there. She'll take the call from a family member, but sooner or later, she'll say to them, "You've got to get the person to call us at the end of the day, and we can take it from there." And the journey begins. Now, it might be just the person rings up and goes, "Yeah, okay, right, fine, no more," or we'll arrange a face-to-face. We'll arrange a face-to-face meeting, get together, and that might be enough as well. And then he goes, well, actually, should we do a, couple of weeks, 6 weeks on the trot of one-to-one therapy with you? Do you want to talk about your stuff? Yeah. It might be at a stage where he goes, actually, I need detox. I'm at the game, mate. I'm high as a kite. I need detox. I need treatment. It's the only way for me. I've tried this, tried that, and we've got the clinic for him also. So we've got all parts of it. You have to be very careful. I get this a lot. Yeah. And we always, I say to the people, because they're usually at that stage bought into the madness and they become part of the problem. The family members, the aunts, the uncles, the dads, the sons, the mums, the child of alcoholics, these kind of people, they're all like, ah! And I always say, get therapy yourself. If you want to know, go to Al-Anon, talk to the therapist. There's family clinics. We do family clinics. Understand it. If you want to understand about the person, go and get your own therapy.
Therapy, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think it has huge value, but there are a lot of people still. There are some people, Tony, who still, I think, have a sort of judgment about it. Do you think there is anyone who wouldn't benefit from therapy? No,
it comes in all disguises. It can be your mate. Most people have got fantastic families. I'm one of those now. They've got a fantastic. We all talk about our stuff today. Nothing's hidden. If there's a problem at school with one of the kids, he comes home and tells us, and we talk about it, and we deal with it. And he sometimes has to do the consequences of that. It's all above board. It's nothing hidden. Nothing's going down. You're not acting out. You're not running to the pub. You're not doing this. And a lot of people have got safe places to share. A lot of people got really good friends, families, people that they open up to. And, I still say to my therapist, I call it what you want, he's my mate. He's my mate that's a bit further down the line than me and has had more sober experience, more life experience than me.
It's interesting, I think, though, that some people have judgments about therapy. But what you're saying is it's about being open, vulnerable, and communicating with people. That's one of the most important things, because it all relates, doesn't it? Anxiety and depression go hand in hand with addiction.
I've never experienced one on my own. I've been depressed, but I've always had anxieties. The anxiety leads to the depression. It's been, I was in China. I was working too hard, 19 years without a drink, with no family, very lonely, very depressed, and I should be better than this. I know all this stuff, I went for a very, very dark point, and then I went, oh, that's enough. I flew home, got to some meetings, flew to Shanghai, flew to Beijing, got to some meetings, spoke to my 75-year-old therapist who can't work Skype. Was quite an interesting, made me more agitated, to be honest. He goes, I'm sorry. And I go, I just want to talk to someone. I need to talk to someone. And he said, easy does it. What are you doing? Why are you in China? What are you doing? You're putting money in front of your family, in front of your serenity. In my experience, if I put anything in front of my recovery, I lose.
Yeah.
I lose.
Is another way of putting that, if people put anything in front of what's in their own best interest, their own well-being, then they lose. Is that a fair way of putting it for,
I think so. And it's a massive conversation at the moment with mental health. It's everywhere, to be honest with you. And people might be getting sick of it, to be honest. But it's great. I think it's great that people are starting to say about this stuff. My mum used to go to the doctor and bore in with it. The breakdown maybe of that relationship and the church. And a lot of people used to go to church and talk. That's kind of broke down, and I see very much the therapist as the new doctor or vicar. You know what I mean? It's like someone that you can go to. Just the process of opening up in a safe place, it just frees you with all this stuff. I know what my solutions are, and it's pretty much, like I say, to not listen and act on my thoughts and feelings, and just to be with them. And it's about not acting on your thoughts and feelings, and changing the way that you feel. Because we can swap poisons as well. We can put the booze down and pick up gambling. And we can swap the poisons, work or sex or porn or gaming. They're all gaming today, and the internet explosion in the last 10 years it's an addiction.
Really?
We do 4 boxes in the education department, and we do a box at the start. And we're all on that. We've all been, at some stage, a don't use. Didn't use drink, didn't use drugs, didn't use women, didn't use media, phones before it was invented, didn't use. And then we go round the boxes. So we take it or leave it. We take it, but sometimes lose control. And then you go to the last box, which is where I ended up.
Totally out of control.
And then at that point, it's usually you can't go back round the boxes. You either get treatment or you're intensive care or you're...
And that's that jumping point, which is the split in the road. Like,
do or die. Round. So we talk about your relationship with whatever it is. What is your relation? Just take 1 minute. If I can do anything for this podcast or anything for the people out there in a moment, just take 1 minute, sit down and just look at your relationships with everything, with everybody, people, places, things, situations. What is your relationship with all those things? Just have a little think about it. It's no judgment. It's just a little bit of a reflection period. If everyone takes their time saying, actually, my God, I keep ringing this girl up every minute. I think I'm actually doing it a bit too much. Or, I'm Instagram every single day.
It's a compulsion.
Screen time. My son, 15-year-old son, 6 hours of screen time. We found a great tool that you can actually limit it. But even he didn't realise that he'd been on it for 6 hours. And he's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, it's great. He loves it. But he's like, okay, so let's have a look at, what do you think? What do you think you should be doing? How many hours do you think you should be on it a day? Just get the conversation going again. Because that affects his mental health.
Of course.
That would affect his emotional health. So that's all we talk about, and we get it into the consciousness. We talk about this stuff, and hopefully we make the world a better place.
We've spoken a lot about parenting, and you're obviously an incredibly proud parent. You were very close to your parents, but you've spoken about them as being addicts. I think your dad was a smoker, your mum was a big foodie, and then your wife, having this what you saw as idyllic family life. To what degree do you think then that her having that quote unquote idyllic family life, emotionally open family life, and you not having that, and having no guidance through thoughts and feelings, to what degree is that? Do you think that's played into the fact that you have struggled with addiction and she doesn't?
I think there's definitely education. They're much more educated. Whiskey, Jerez, teacher whiskies. Yeah. So they've had a lot of conversations around the way that alcohol changes people. Even Arsene Wenger, when I was 6 weeks clean and sober when Arsene walked in the club, and he said, my mum and dad owned a pub in Strasbourg, and I saw the way that alcohol changed people. So he had a little bit of an understanding, not an empathy, but a sympathy for the kind of the drug, as it were.
That's interesting.
So definitely the teacher family had been a lot more educated around, and don't get me wrong, it was maybe because I was so closed that their family may have been quite normal, but it's just the fact because I was so close and all of a sudden I've opened up and I'm seeing different things.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing that they were all talking to each other and all, that was never my experience, but I know now that a lot of people do. Actually, a lot of people are out there kind of speaking to each other and talking about their mental health. But at that point, I was so close and it was such a rare thing that it became very attractive for me. And she's so, why is she not using and not drinking and not like 90% of the population? I don't think she's got the genetic makeup. I don't think she's had trauma as a kid. I don't think her peers were addicts. I think she went back to a postcode. I think all the people around her were great. Sociality, she had friends, she had stable relationships, she had a balanced mentally, emotionally persona. Life happens, doesn't it? But she reacts normally. When her dad died, you see, she cried, and when my dad died, I kind of bottled it up for about 18 months and then cried. You know what I mean? It's a different way of dealing with stuff. When she's angry, she appropriately tells me, she doesn't shove it away like I would do for about 6 months and then explode. I'm really annoyed with you. You were annoyed with me 6 months ago. You know what I mean? It's just come out. You know what? And she says, that is unacceptable. What you did to me, that was unacceptable. Don't do that again. She's like, oh my God. And I go into a 3-year-old all of a sudden, because that's what I am, an emotional little boy, and go, oh, yeah. So, but then day by day, I've kind of grown and we're at a position now where she even said to me this morning, I'd like to get your advice on this one. My God. Me.
Hey, that's progress.
My
there
God.
That's a
she
signpost.
My advice.
It's a pat on the back.
My God.
You talk about the 3-year-old part of you, and you've spoken about, the little Tony and how it's important to have compassion and respect and kindness for that little boy that's still in you, and we've all got that sensitive part within us. How important is self-care and looking after that little boy?
And don't take yourself so serious. Sometimes I have been quite painful on myself. I like putting myself on the cross and saying I'm a really bad. That goes with the self-destruction button that I had years and years ago. The self-loathing and you're a piece of poo, and so I give myself a break today, and I quite like myself today. Whew, that was hard. And I do nurture the little boy inside of me and look after him. And I think it's important that I said earlier about the things just for you. I think that's really important. I don't know what you like. I like walking. I like drawing. I like doing service, reaching out other people. So those things are all looking after the little Tony, call it what you want. Sometimes I'm negative, sometimes I'm positive. I accept the way that I am. Acceptance is the key.
Acceptance, yeah.
Acceptance is the key. Whatever I'm thinking and feeling, I just accept it. And I can be resentful like the next man. I can be really jealous, angry. I can be... you name it. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect, but I just accept it, and I don't do nothing with it. It passes.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
So it's acceptance of whatever you're feeling.
Turn it all over, mate. Throw it all out the window.
Yeah. It's the surrender to the higher power, which is that step, isn't it?
It's difficult to understand. I can, I wrestled with it when I came into AA. Step 1 and step 2 is to come into belief, and I was like, my God, what is all this about? For the drunk, step 1 sometimes is enough, but then this kind of concept of a God of your understanding, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? I don't know what is going on. And I remember walking over Putney Heath, where I used to live, going, please, they've told me I need a higher power of some sort, and I'll drink again if I don't get one, and what's going to happen here? And you know what, there's so many paradoxes in recovery and in the 12 steps. And the minute that I let go of that, I found it.
Right.
And it's like the reverse flow of the world. The more you grab onto something, it just slips through your fingers.
Yeah.
And the more you let go, it comes to you. It's unwritten. Is a great existential therapist called Alan Watts.
I know Alan. Fan of Alan. Hey, I'd say what he said.
Wisdom of insecurity.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, there you go. My God.
Yeah.
So he talks about the reverse flow of the world, and I was grabbing it. It doesn't matter what I realise. It doesn't matter what my higher power was. It's like I'm going over old stuff, but as long as it's not me, you know what I mean. And we just get it over to something else, And I've got a point of reference. I've got a mate that I talk to, that I share stuff with. I don't keep it in anymore. And I've got millions of recovering addicts that I go and connect with, that have been to the same place I've got. And a lot of us don't act anymore. We don't get drunk anymore. It's so bizarre.
So to sum up then Tony, let's, someone listening who perhaps has thought, okay, maybe I am denying, minimising, whatever. What would your advice to someone who is struggling, who's reaching that fork in the road, who's going down the lift that you spoke about? What would your advice to them be?
Well, I say this all the time, I didn't get into AA because I had a bad weekend. I had a bad decade with this drug, and the consequences were just adding up and up and up and up. And if anyone's actually in that place, and even the slightest thinking of it, make the call. Go to a meeting. Check it out. Because they obviously are, if they're going to be listening or intrigued by what I'm saying, or there must be a little bit going, actually, and if it's resonated in them, they're going, I might, just go to a meeting. There's millions all around the world.
Yeah.
All around the world. Just check it out, What's the harm?
Yeah.
You can stay where you are otherwise.
And then for someone who's seeing someone they love and it's clear to everyone but them that they have an addiction, what would be, in a nutshell, your advice there?
They need to detach with love. I'll say it again, detach with love. Maybe give them a number of AA, GA, whatever their poison is. If they want to, if they're a sports person, retired or professional or retired, they can ring our 24/7 helpline. There's Mind, who's a very good charity that take calls as well, but primarily the person's got to give them a call. Create boundaries. You don't enable them. You don't, if they ring up and they want 100 grand because they want to, pay their dealer or their gambler off. It's actually no, and that comes with real pain because the person's going, I can just give him it. What's wrong with you? Don't you love him? No, you love him if you detach and put boundaries up and enable him to go and get help. Don't enable him. Don't give him the money. He'll stay sick. They'll stay sick,
Tony Adams, a privilege to meet you. You've had a rich and storied life. You've achieved a lot. You've helped a lot of people. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I think I said enough.
I think you probably have, Tony. I'm not going to lie. All right, Tony, pleasure. Speak soon.